So I am now joined by a very special guest. It is Baltimore Orioles minor league shortstop Mason McCoy. Mason, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to start with, I'm sure you've seen this by now, the news yesterday, Major League Baseball is going to require teams to provide housing for minor league players starting next year. You've been a minor leaguer since 2017. You've played at every level of the system by now. What was your initial reaction when you heard that?
Relief. I mean, if I was in, short season or low A right now and that all happened, even now, I still blown away now that they're finally able to do something like that. But for those guys that are at that lower level that are grinding right now, I was there. I remember my paycheck in short season was $250 every 2 weeks. And you just can't get by with that. So being able to have some housing figured out and paid for, definitely takes a lot of the stress off.
So you mentioned your experience in the low, short season, like Aberdeen, Delmarva. Talk to me a little bit about that. So a lot of people don't really know what goes on behind the scenes in minor league baseball. What's the living situation like? Does it get better the higher up you get into the different levels of the system? What's your experience been like with that?
With my experience, you kind of don't know where you're going in spring training. You have a general idea, but the last couple of days of spring training, they tell you where you're going. So you'll be assigned to short season, or you'll be assigned to low A or higher, or whatever it was. And then previously, before COVID and all that stuff, they would give you a little packet of paper, and it would basically have families that would say, that they were interested in being a host family. And so then on the drive up, you were calling these families trying to figure out, but if you could live there, but so was your other 30 teammates who are also calling if they didn't have somewhere to live, or if they were going to do an apartment, then it was fine. But it's definitely chaotic. You don't know what you're going to get into with host families, and they're generous enough to open their doors and let people they have no idea live there, which is pretty remarkable for, shows a lot about them. But then, yeah, and same with an apartment. We had guys that rent an apartment, and they would do a 6-month lease, or whatever it may be, and they're with that team for 2 months, and all of a sudden they get moved up, and then they're stuck paying for that that apartment still, even though they're at a different level. So there's a lot of weird things that happen with the living situation, and some guys don't, not comfortable living with host families. I've done it every year, so I'm comfortable with it. But people with families, there's no way I'll be able to do that next year. It's just probably not in the the works for me. I'm going to have to end up getting a place. So it's definitely exciting.
Yeah. I've seen maybe it was Tom Kohler or somebody tweeted out his crowded minor league apartments, guys on tiny air mattresses, 5 to a room.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of stuff common across minor league baseball, where you have like you said, crowded living situations, guys just doing whatever they can? Is that pretty common?
100%. Yeah. The apartments were I've never, at the lower levels, you can't afford an apartment really. So I really didn't have a lot of teammates that did that. But in Double A, I remember there was guys that lived in an apartment. There would be, it's a 3-bedroom apartment. There was 5 dudes in there. One guy sleeping in the living room. They don't have any furniture, so one guy's sleeping, on a blow-up mattress in the living room. 2 guys are sharing a room, and it is exactly what it seems for a lot of guys that don't want to do the host families, and are trying to save every penny they possibly can.
When you're kind of grinding away, because obviously you said you made $250 every 2 weeks. How important was the off season for you to try to make enough money so you could have a little bit to afford to ride it out through the actual season?
It was always very important, but it was also really difficult because if you want a good paying job, no one's going to hire you for 6 months or 5 months or 4 months or whatever that is. The people that pay a lot of money are usually people who want you for a year or 2 years, or long term. So that's a little bit difficult. That was my biggest struggle, was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was lucky enough to, one of my friends from high school had a cage at his house, and was allowed me to go in there and do lessons to kids. And I had an unbelievable amount of people from my area that were willing to pay me to teach their kid. And that's how I made, ultimately it's how I made my living for the whole year, was trying to do lessons as much as I could. But along with that, also trying to train, trying to get, eat right, trying to lift in the morning, trying to get your baseball work in, but also having to work that on top of it just to support yourself. It's pretty difficult. It was.
Yeah, like I was reading the article, I think it was Jeff Passan put it out on ESPN about like the life of minor leaguers after this, because like you said, like in the off season, it's not like you have to, obviously work on your craft, but then you also have to work like actual job. Like I just can't imagine like trying to balance both of those and like try to remain competitive and in shape all the while trying to like earn enough money. Like, are you looking forward to, now you've been at AAA the entire year, things are going in the right direction for you. In your case, like, are you looking forward to having like another solid year built up for you?
I mean, hopefully, I knock on wood. I was grateful enough to have another season where, no injuries, play the whole season out and didn't have anything crazy happen. So I'm just hoping, staying healthy is the biggest thing, getting opportunities. And that's pretty much it. I mean, even at the AAA level, you still don't make, I think people think you make a lot more than you do. You don't make really much at all. I make enough to pay my mortgage and my bills pretty much. And that's essentially it. And I lived with a family friend. So, having that cost on top of it it's definitely, you're not making as much, but no, I'm just trying to, once you get up there, that's the whole dream. You get up there and you play in the show for a little bit, you realize how great it is. And then you just want to stay there. So I'm just trying to break that door. Getting to the door is hard. And then trying to get through it is even harder. So I'm just, focus on what I can focus on. That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely knocking on the door to the big leagues. I want to take it back though. So I was doing my research and I saw that one stat just completely blew my mind. And as a high school junior, he hit 564.
Yeah.
Like, and I read that you said you're just a strict pull hitter, nothing opposite field, over 500. Like, this might be like a simple question, but just like, how awesome was it getting a hit over half the time you're like an at bat?
It was pretty sweet. I'm not from like a super big, crazy big town. I got a lot of little towns around me, just farm country. But my team was pretty good and it was incredible. It was one of, I have bad memory already. So trying to remember back then, it was a long time ago, but no, I know it's pretty awesome getting to hit like that, but it's just like everybody at this level now. It's like, if you ask anybody in low A or high A or double A or triple A, like their high school numbers are probably crazy too. Just because we're part of that group that is now 1% of the population that is getting to continue to play. So it's pretty special.
See, if I were you now, like, I would just be ribbing Adley Rutschman. There's no way Adley Rutschman hit 564 in high school. I know he's Mr. Perfect in every other ink, but I think you might have him on that one.
He probably hit 800 to be honest with you from both sides of the plate. He's unbelievable. He's a real deal, man.
I want to talk about him in a second. But so, I mean, you've talked about your approach at the plate and how it's kind of changed over the years. Like you said, you were just like a dead pull hitter. And then, you talk about the transition, because now I looked and you're some of the best opposite field numbers in minor league baseball. Like, how hard of a transition was that for you? And like, how much work did you put in to stop pulling everything?
A lot of it was, I had a lot of like doubt, like people that doubted that I could do it at that next. So that's why I didn't have any scholarships out of high school. I applied to my junior college down the road. And then, the baseball coach there was like, hey, like, we'll give you money to come play. So I went there and ended up playing. And then long story short, we're here. But it was always, I didn't have a strong arm, where I was a front foot hitter. That was the big one. I was always on my front foot and I pulled everything. So there's a lot of stuff like that, whether I had good numbers or not, they just didn't think it was going to play. And so then I did have to really grind out, trying to let the ball travel. So I wasn't lunging after it and taking my hits instead. That was the biggest thing that I tried to harp on, was I didn't want to strike out. I wanted to put ball in play. And, if they're throwing me everything outside, being able to drive the ball to right center. I think when I'm going really good, I hit the ball to right center the best. Like that's where I feel the best, most comfortable. But it just took a lot of work, to be honest, a lot of reps. Baseball is a game of repetition, and it's not something that you go in the cage and you do it one time. You're like, oh, I felt it. Now I feel good. No, you got to do it over and over, hundreds and thousands of swings. And eventually it starts to play out in the game. This year I had to try to make a little bit different adjustments to try to elevate the ball a little bit more, trying to hit more, extra base hits. And I saw my strikeouts numbers go up, which I wasn't too happy about. But at the end of the day, that's what they wanted me to do, is, see if I could hit the ball in the air for more power and more doubles. But being able to hit both sides of the field, I feel like, is just effective if I can take my approach and be able to do that. Because at this level, guys are just unbelievable. This year was the biggest eye-opening year for me. Like, arms to, they have 3 pitches that they throw above average, that they can throw anywhere on the plate, and just being able to, with 2 strikes, he might throw you 298-mile-an-hour fastballs inside, and he throws you a nasty slider away. But that ability to just stay through it and hit that ball in the 4-hole. Now you're 1 for 1 on the day. You got on first base, and hopefully score some runs. But it just took a lot of work, to be honest.
Yeah, like one thing I found really interesting when I was looking at all this was I didn't realize that even in like the low levels of the minors, they're putting shifts on. I mean, I guess I know the analytics revolution and all the numbers guys are telling them that, but I just had no idea. Like, did you know? So you're coming up and you're going through high school, college, junior college, and then you get to the minor leagues and you see 3 guys on that one side of the field where you pull the ball. Was that how how big of a wake up call was that? And like, what did you have to try to do to beat it?
So I never saw it until we played the Astros in 2017. And I remember getting up to bat, and at this point in my career, I hit a lot of balls to right field, so I was able to hit that ball that way. And I remember getting up to bat, and they put 3 guys on the left side of the field, and they had the first baseman hugging the first base line. And I'd tell myself, I was like, just hit a ground ball to second base. And I remember I broke 2 bats, and I was 4 for 4 with 4 singles because I hit every ball on the ground to second base. And then the next day we played them, and now they're playing me straight up. So it was crazy. I was like, what in the world? And then the more and the more I got used to it, and the Orioles started teaching it, and I kind of got the understanding of why we do it. It made sense to me. But, as a power left-handed hitter, all you got to do is bunt that ball down third base line, and your base hit every time. And I've seen it so often, but it's just having the ability to tell yourself, you could be a home run hitter and being able to say, you know what, I can get this bunt down for a hit and get the guy behind me to get an RBI or something like that. That's the biggest thing I see out of it, is just there's a lot more hits that open up if you're willing to take them, if you're going against what you do best.
That's so funny that you said that once you started hitting it where the shift wasn't, that they just like, all right, let's just play straight up defense. Like, What do you think is the most like hard part about this? The mental or the physical side? Is it the physical side of physically getting the ball to where the shift isn't? Or is it the mental side of like staring at, like I said, 3 guys like staring right at you, knowing, all right, we know you're going to hit the ball right here. We dare you not to. Like, what's harder, the mental or the physical part of that?
I think it kind of goes hand in hand. It's having the mentality that, if I'm just going to use a power hitter as reference because that's the guys that get shifted the most. If I'm a power hitter, I know that I hit the ball really, really well in the air, and I get up to bat and I'm left-handed, and I know they got, the second baseman's playing the outfield, the shortstop's playing second base, third baseman's playing short. In my head, I'm like, well, I'm a power hitter. I can get this ball, I can hammer this ball. But that mentality that, well, I can also bunt, and that's open. So if I just bunt the ball down third base line, that's a hit. And I guess it goes a little bit of selfishness, I guess. Like, I'm going to get this knockdown. I'm going to get a hit. But at the same time, it's unselfish because you're getting the guy behind you up in an opportunity to score you. So I don't know. I think it's more of the mental going away from what you do great and being able to just take what they're giving you, essentially.
That's such a great point because, like you said, the power left-handed guys, I mean, obviously, like Chris Davis, like his whole thing was I think he eventually did bunt it down the third base line because literally there was nobody over there. But It's just the thought of like, I want to hit a homer, but I think I'll take the single instead. Like that's got to be a weird like shift for guys like that.
Exactly, especially those power guys. I mean, I'll use JC Escarra, kid on our team this year, because I saw him do it multiple times where he is a power guy. He is a guy that drives the ball to the right side of the field. And he laid down probably 4 bunt hits in the last month of the season because they were so shifted over that it was there. All you had to do is get it. You don't have to get it down the line. Just get it past the pitcher on the left side of the field, and it's going to be a hit every time. I mean, you butt it hard enough, it might be a double. And so just seeing him like trust it, and all that is practice, being able to trust that you can get a bunt down, you can put it where you want it. Because I know how frustrating it is when you bunt a ball and it's, you bunt it, it's a good bunt, the kid makes a good play, you're out, and you're like, wow, I could have swung the bat, I might have got a hit. Well, no, that's not how. It's trusting that you can get a hit more times than not on that.
Well, I want to talk about the flip side of this too, because you're a great infielder as well as a great hitter. But as an infielder, like when you're in this shift, has it ever come back to bite you where you're so far shifted over where like there's a guy on base and being in the shift kind of messes up like the double play? Like how has that ever come back to bite you being in the shift?
A lot of times. But the reason behind it is they say that it's going to take away more hits than the ones that you'll give up, I guess. So, I mean, we've seen it all the time. Pitchers get super frustrated when they get up there and, they make a good pitch and a guy, sticks his butt out and slaps one shortstop and nobody's there because we're shifted over. We got 3 guys on that side of the field. So there's situations like that happen, or like a swinging bunt that is now a hit for a lefty, stuff like that. But that's baseball. Like there's, in the same token, there's balls that you smash up the middle and there's a guy playing there. And you're like, wow, that's a hit every time. And now it's not because they shifted. So it goes hand in hand, I guess. I would be curious to see all the numbers to see how many actually get taken away and how many we actually give up, just to see if it actually works or not.
Right. Because I've seen it so many times, like you said, where if they were just in straight up defense, it would just be hit to a person. But because like 45% goes down this way and 38 goes that way, it's like, well, the ball is just going to go in between them. So have you seen like the talk around, like, I think it was Commissioner Manfred was talking about, maybe eliminating the shift or having it so like you have to keep 2 on each side of the base. Like as an infielder, like what would you think if something like that was put into place?
I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I mean, I don't mind moving around either. I think it's kind of fun when I get to play short and then I actually get to go play second sometimes. But not that it takes away from the game, but I do think it takes a lot of hits away. So I know I think Double A messed around with where the infielders had to be on the infield. They couldn't go in the grass. And that kind of eliminates some of the shifts, but I mean, nothing crazy. But I wouldn't mind it. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty easy going on the infield. I just like to be in there. So I could care less.
Do they ever let you be like the rover out in like short left or right field? Do you ever get to run around in the outfield?
As an infielder?
Yeah, like in the shift, like how they'll put a guy in short left or short right. Do you ever get to play that?
Yeah, when I played second, we go out there. It's almost right field, honestly. It's a little in front of it, but it's pretty far out there. And shortstop, you don't really get to do any of those deep, crazy shifts like that. But second base, you get to, which is kind of sweet.
Is that kind of fun just running around out there? I have to imagine it's a whole different look and angle. Like, do you enjoy being the rover or whatever they call it?
I do. I think it's fun. I remember
seems kind of fun.
What was it? Low A, high A or something. I was playing back there and Seth Beer was up with that. He was with the Astros at the time and he pulled the ball over the first baseman's head, line drive. And I laid out in the outfield and picked it and then hopped up and threw it to the pitcher at first base. And I was like, that guy is probably so angry because that's a double, like at least a double every day. And now we play this big shift and he sees the guy jump and he's like, let's go. It's a knock. And then I'm also way out there and I dive and get it and throw him out. So it's pretty funny. But those are the plays that I like where it's like I'm taking those hits away. As an infielder, you want to take as many hits away as you can.
Absolutely. I guess the flip side of that, like the counter argument would be, and I think this is kind of where Commissioner Manfred was talking about it. It's just like, he's all about pace of play and the games are too long. And there's also not enough balls in play. And then if you're, taking hits away in short right, when it absolutely should be a hit, like, do you feel like, do the games feel as long to the people playing them as it does to me watching them? Like, can you tell when the game is just dragging?
Yeah. I think every player would tell you the same thing, that it's like, we look up there in the 4th inning and we're like, oh Lord, we're on pace for a 4-hour game. And it happens, and you see all the pitching changes, a lot of pitching changes too that go into it, and they have the shot clock to try to speed it up, but essentially it really doesn't do anything crazy. But yeah, I mean, essentially it's how it is. It's crazy.
That's funny. Yeah. Because especially sometimes in the low minor leagues where you're looking at the clock and it's like an hour and you've been through 3 innings, you're doing the math in your head. Like, it's cool that you do the same thing that we do. So that's kind of nice.
Oh yeah. Especially when there's times where it's like the 8th inning. I'm like, yo, guys, we're on pace for like a 2-hour, 15-minute game. And they're like, yo, why'd you say that? Now it's going to go longer. And then sure enough, the next 2 innings take, an hour, and now we're right back at 3-hour game.
Do you feel like we're tinkering with the game too much when it comes to pace of play? Like, in the majors, obviously they've done like runners on second and extras. Like you mentioned the shot clock, pitch clock kind of thing. Like, are you in favor of kind of, doing everything we can, or do you think we're doing too much?
I get why they're doing it. Like, they're trying to speed the game up, which I'm okay with, but it's baseball. Like there's going to be different situations where, like, that, for example, if I'm leading off the inning and I just, laid out in the hole at shortstop and made a play threw the guy out, and now it's 3 outs, and I run all the way in the dugout. I'm gassed. By the time I get my helmet, my Evo, my batting gloves, all that stuff on, I get on deck. They've already thrown it down. I get 1 or 2 practice swings, and it's like I got to hurry up and get in the box, because if I don't get in the box by the end of the time limit, it's now strike 1, and I'm 0-1. So there's situations like that where it's like the umpire should have a little bit of a feel, or they should be a little bit more lenient on it, or catchers too. Catcher makes, he 1, 2, 3 inning, catcher's leading off the next inning. By the time he gets all his stuff off and gets out there, he doesn't get a practice swing or nothing. So situations like that, I don't like it. I think that it could be fixed, but at the same time, those guys that take 35 minutes to get up to the plate and they do all their toe tapping and all that stuff, then yeah, I see why that would be should be in the game, because he's taking 20 minutes by himself to get in the box. So I see it from both sides. I get them trying to speed it up, though. It's baseball. I don't really know how you do it. They've tried so many different things.
Yeah, like when it comes down to it, there's only so many things you can do to tinker with it. But that's really funny, though. I feel like I'm envisioning like the guy in between pitches, he'll do the batting gloves to do the helmet. Like, how frustrating is that when you're like, you got some momentum and then you got a guy coming up and he's doing 35 minutes in between each pitch, just, checking the tape. Does that piss you guys off?
Oh yeah. The same with pitchers. Like, we put up a couple runs, we go into the field, and then our pitcher takes 20 minutes between, 20, 30, 40 seconds between pitches. And then now we're all asleep out there, and we're like, what? He's throwing balls. And then, the pace of play that they have also affects us. Same with the hitters. You get 2 guys on and he's taking his own sweet time getting up in the box. It's going to be a momentum killer.
Oh, absolutely. So when it comes to motivation, like I've read a whole bunch of stuff you've talked about, you use kind of like little motivational sayings and phrases to like keep yourself locked in. Like, what are some of the things that you say to yourself and you kind of like internalize to help, get yourself centered and right back on track?
Like during the game?
Yeah. Like during your hitting.
During hitting's hard, because hitting, I try to get up there and like clear. Like I have a plan, I get up to the plate, and then I almost like want to go like just blah while I'm up there. And because if you overthink, the ball's coming at 95. If you try to think about it, you ain't gonna hit it. So trying to figure that out is definitely hard. But after when I'm struggling or whatever, I always try to tell myself, like, this game is hard. You're one of the best at the world at what you do. Like, we all are some of the best. And if you don't have that approach of, I'm one of the best players at my position, I'm one of the best hitters on this planet, because we all are at this point. We're that 1%. If you go up to the bat and you're like, oh, I can't hit, which I did this year at times, you're not going to hit, and you're going to get abused, and you're going to strike out, and it's going to get ugly. But just understand, it's like having that understanding that the game is hard. This game is very hard. Like, what we're doing is, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're a Hall of Famer. You fail, 8 out of 10 times, you're an average baseball player. It's just stuff like that you have to give yourself a little slack. But it's hard to do that. I had a really tough time doing that, and also trying to care, because I care a whole bunch. And I found myself getting into trouble because I cared so much that I thought out, like, you're better than this, not understanding, like, this game is hard, like, this is going to happen. So that's kind of like the mental things that I had to get through to myself, I guess, this year more than anything. But I think just understanding that this game is hard, not to give yourself any slack, but understanding, like, this is a hard game.
Absolutely. Like I've seen it so often in the big leagues where, this is obviously the sport of failure. Like you said, 7 out of 10 times you're just not you're get up to the plate and you're not going to get a hit. But like, how easy is it to like get down on yourself? Because like, you might have like an O for whatever, like at the plate, and then you might go out in the field and do something. But like, how do you keep like, how do you avoid falling into, the pitfalls and the traps that come with failure?
There's a lot of different ways. People have multiple different ways how they deal with it. I tend to not think about it when I leave the field. So when I leave the field, it's a whole new, I have a son now who's 9 months, and I remember telling myself, I'm in the shower, I get out of the shower, and I'm like, he doesn't care if I'm mad. He doesn't care if I'm happy. Like, he just wants to see me. So I can't carry what I just did during the game today and carry it off the field. Now, sometimes inevitably it's going to happen. I'll be in a bad mood or something after a game, but I try to not think about it afterwards. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do none of that until I get to the field, and that's when I handle all of it. I guess that's something that I try to do. It's just, there's a lot of different ways that people deal with it. There's also external factors like living situation that plays into it. Like all that stress of all that stuff also adds to the fuel or adds to the fire that is baseball and is a mental game in itself. I'm trying to think of anything else that I do to really, I don't know. I'm not a very like, when I get mad, when I get angry, I kind of keep it all internal, which I'm trying to not do, because internalizing it makes you more upset, more mad. I don't ever let it out, but I've been trying to, if I get out, if I'm struggling, going into the locker room, just going on like a little walk, going to the cage, just chucking a baseball and then going back out there, and it kind of blows off all that steam. But it is hard. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on that, people don't understand with baseball.
Does it help kind of having a strong support system? Because I was reading Rock Kabako did a piece on you and the relationship you have with your sister who plays softball. And talking about how you guys are great sounding boards for each other. Does it help having somebody like her in your corner that's just like, you could talk to about these kind of things?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes for sure, just having somebody that, she played college softball for 4 years, and having somebody that kind of understands the gig and all that stuff. But at the same time, like my wife, I don't like to talk to her about any baseball stuff, and she understands that, because I don't want to come home and then relive what just happened. But having those different people in your corners, like I got my mom, who's always going to be hard on me, and always ask questions, and always, and that's, why not have that in your corner? There's a lot of different people in your corner, and like utilizing them and how they all talk and interact with you kind of helps in certain situations get through. If I know, hey man, like you need to get over this, you need your butt chewed or whatever, like, I'll text my mom or I'll text my dad, and like we'll go back and forth and talk about what's been going on or whatever. But most of the time I just try to I just try to forget about it and just not worry about it. That's when I come home and focus on life outside of baseball.
I love that. So I want to talk about, this is something interesting. Haven't talked to anybody about this, but it's like in 2020, there's no season because the pandemic, no minor league season, I should say. When you guys came back in 2021, did you find it harder to get going in the beginning as opposed to different years? Or like, what was the difference coming off of a year with nothing and then starting right back up again this year?
It was kind of a blessing in disguise to an extent. Obviously you don't ever, get to play a season. That's downfall in itself. But I got to really, really work on my swing, and try to do what they were wanting me to do, like try to make those corrections that I think will play off in the long run, instead of trying to do it during a season and then not having success. So it's kind of like a little silver lining of it. But I think the biggest thing was just pitching. I was driving during the pandemic. Like I still did some baseball stuff. Like I did. And I would drive 35 minutes away to get live at bats off of, it might've been 6 live at bats for the day, but off of a couple pitchers from the A's, a guy that pitched in the big leagues for a little bit, a guy that pitched for the Cubs in the big leagues, and I was with the Padres. So I was getting some of those live at bats just to try to stay ready, but it doesn't, nothing is similar to a season unless you're playing it. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that was the hardest part, was just pitching. I felt like the pitching was so much more ahead to start the year, which it usually is, but not for that long, because people haven't seen any, people haven't been hitting.
Yeah. Like, did you find yourself in this year's spring training and the ramp up? Did you try to like put an extra emphasis on anything to try to get yourself up to the level of the competition you were seeing around you?
You were saying before spring training,
or just like, like this year's spring training, like, getting ramped up again.
Yeah. I think I knew it was going to be hard. So and everybody's got that itch. So they're always itching. They're going through all the stuff, prepping for it. And then you get there and you realize, wow, like I haven't played in a year, like over a year. I have not played baseball, which was pretty hard, but I try. I mean, you have no idea really, like, unless that happens, like, how many times has this happened ever? Maybe once with the lockout or something. But even that, I think just trying to figure out how can I best prepare myself, that I think is for me. And that's what I tried my best to do, is try to prepare myself. And I tried and I got there and realized, hey, like I know those things that I need to do more of, which is every year is like that. Trying to figure out when to start hitting, when to start throwing. So my arm's ready. My first spring training, my arm was gone at the beginning of spring training because I didn't throw enough before. So it was just figuring out those little cues. And that's, I just tried to do that basically, guess this year in spring training just to get an idea.
So we mentioned this guy's name before. You had to play with him for a little bit at AAA this year, Adley Rutschman. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Adley Rutschman experience. What was that? What was playing with him like? Does he just make everybody on the team around him so much better?
Well, I think the first thing that I'll say about him is, it's easy to be a super, super big prospect, number one, prospect in baseball and all this stuff. And you get a little bit of a personality with it. If you catch what I'm saying, a little bit of an arrogance, but he is like the complete opposite of that. He's a unbelievable guy, a little quirky, does some funny things, hilarious, but he's just a good dude. And I think that's the biggest thing that I realized right from the get-go. I kind of keep to myself for a little bit until I figure you out. And he was a guy who just came in and he was just himself. He just enjoyed to be there and was, messing around with everybody. And whether he knows you or not, he'll come over to introduce himself. And I think that just goes a lot further. He is number one, but he is an unbelievable baseball player, and he is so polished and does so many things well. But like, that's the first thing that I saw was Adley Rutschman, the person, not the baseball player, which I think goes a long way. But as a baseball player, he does everything right. I mean, he runs, he hits, he throws, he hits from both sides of the plate. He can hit for power. He's just fun to play with. He does get angry sometimes. I think it's, he cares, it's again, like I could never speak to that because I am not number one, prospect in all of baseball and got, I didn't have all that money or anything like that, but it's like, I'm so impressed at how he carries himself and how he plays the game, even like knowing all of those things and all the hype that's behind him. It's almost like he doesn't really feel the pressure. There is no pressure. He's just going out there and going to play his game, and he knows that it's going to work out in the end.
I love that. Yeah, everybody I've talked to has nothing but great things to say about him. Do you have like a behind the scenes story? Did he ask you to be in any of his TikTok videos? Like, is there anything that you could share, like Adley Rutschman, the person behind the scenes?
Oh, geez, I don't have anything. He always calls me you Spartan. No idea where it came from, but like right out of the way, he was like, "What's up, Mace? You Spartan?" And I was like, "What? Like, where is that from?" And like, he kind of stuck with that all year. Like, he would always, I'd say, "What's up? Good morning. How you guys doing today?" And he would always say that. So that's something that I still don't know where it came from to this day. But other than that, like nothing crazy, no crazy stories or anything like that.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. I mean, you never know. He might ask you to be one of his next TikToks. Him and Johnny Reiser make some great ones. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, all right. So kind of transition into this next year. We have this off season go, but what are your goals for this off season? Like, what are you working on? Like, what are some of the things that you're trying to get better at, as you prep for 2022?
For baseball wise?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just continuing this new swing. Can I mix this new swing with my old swing so that my strikeouts go down? I think that's the biggest thing. Defensively, I just got to stay ready. I played a lot of different positions this year. I played a lot of short, a lot of second, a lot of third. I played some outfield. So, I feel comfortable in the field, just getting those reps in. I'll have to do that again this year. But hitting wise, I think that's always the biggest thing. If you hit, you stay. Hitting gets you there too. So trying to combine that new and old swing that I had to be the best version of myself, not just trying to pull the ball in the air, but also drive that ball to right field or take that hit when it's given to me, like we talked about. And just kind of cut down on my strikeout numbers. That was the biggest thing. There's a lot of plate discipline stuff that goes in the game now where it's, swinging at strikes only. And I think that there's a good and a bad thing with that. The good thing is you're only swinging at strikes, but the bad thing is now that aggressive mentality of, there's guys all the time that hit homers on balls, 2 balls down and a ball outside that they smash down the line for a homer. It hits the pole. Like there's guys like that can do that and be able to put those balls in play. And that's one of the biggest things that I saw was I hit the ball harder this year. I did a lot of things well, And I also felt like I was passive at times where I get that pitch that I knew I could hit and I could do damage with, but it was a ball and I'd take it, or you know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of finding that happy medium between my 2019 year and this 2021 year, is trying to mend it together to where I can play the best offensive game that I possibly can.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Like I was looking at like your appearances in the field. You have a little like a defensive versatility, obviously, shortstop, but I think like you said, you played outfield, you played all over the diamond. Like, is there another like position you're looking to add to your repertoire, or do you just view being like, kind of like if needed to be called upon, I could step in there and play wherever?
I do believe that. I would have never thought if you had asked me in 2017 that I'd ever play the outfield in pro ball. I probably would have been like, I don't know about that. But this year, I mean, my first game that I played in outfield, they put me in center field, and I think I played maybe 4 games in center and 5 games in left or something like that. Played a lot. I played third base for a whole year in college, so I'm comfortable with that. At second base, I played quite a bit my first couple seasons. So I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable everywhere. I have different gloves and all that stuff, but again, it's just getting those reps. I'm confident in the field. I have, that I can do what I need to do, and I have good instincts. It's just, that offensive part of the game.
Did I also see that you've pitched at some point?
I pitched in the Northwoods League in 2015 and 16. Yeah, I pitched for 1 inning in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Not in pro ball though.
So okay, but hypothetically, if they're, you guys need a backup pitcher, an emergency pitcher, maybe
I could do it. Yeah, I could do it. I get in there and throw strikes. I throw strikes, that's for sure. I might get hit around, but I throw strikes.
What do you think you could reach on the gun right now? What can you pull back and get on the gun?
I don't know. I thought I knew, and then all the pitchers were like, "Oh, you can't break 82, blah blah." But I also think they were talking trash. In 2015 and 2016, I was like 89, 92, and I topped out at 93, and it was only 2 innings. So like it is what it is. But
that's pretty good.
Do I think that it'll be that now? Do I think, was the gun juiced? I don't know. We'll never know unless I get up there again.
I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind. Like, you never know. Like, maybe Mike Elias is listening to this. Maybe somebody in the organization's like, you know what, we do need somebody with a little velocity as an emergency pitcher. So, you never know.
Try.
Yeah. All right, let's do a couple quick rapid fire questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
So I saw that you're also a little bit of a basketball player. I think back in high school, you're pretty good. Do you have an opportunity to show off your hoop skills now?
Do I have an opportunity?
Yeah, like, you guys ever play pickup? You backing down Adley in the low post or anything?
Not on the not on the baseball team, no. But here in my hometown, I can go up to the high school and play in open gyms, and we got some of my buddies I went to high school with me that they do. There's like 20 of them that'll do a bunch of games on Sunday mornings or something like that. I haven't gone, but yeah, I did play. One of my teammates actually was in the NBA, and he's playing overseas now. So yeah, it was pretty sweet. We were pretty good.
What was your game like? Were you like a guard jacking up threes?
I was a point guard, a good ball handler, and a distributor. My senior year, I shot a little bit more. I had the highest 3-point percentage on our team, actually in the area, I think. But I didn't shoot all the time. But when I shot them, they usually went in. But again, I had an NBA guy on our team, so it's like I'm gonna pass the ball to him. But I was like I'd guard the best player. I'd face guard him the whole game, and then I was the distributor.
I love that. Who was the NBA player, by the way?
Alec Peters. He played Valparaiso, and then he got drafted to the Suns, played a couple years with the Suns, and then he's actually a 2-time champion in Europe. So yeah, he's a good dude.
That's awesome. So I was watching some of your like defensive highlights on Twitter earlier. How often do you practice throwing the ball without your hand and just using the glove? Because that looked pretty natural when you flipped it out there.
Yeah, every day. Every time I play catch, I do it. During double plays, I'll mess around with it sometimes. And I did this before, after the play. I always messed around with it every day, just in case something were to happen. And sure enough, yeah, it happened in that playoff game. I got that. I was playing the shift, and I got that bunt from that lefty that was just kind of like a line drive one hopper, and I caught it kind of high, and I didn't know what to do with it initially because he was running. So I just, kept it up and chucked it with the glove, and it got there. I do practice it though. Zach Jarrett's my catch partner, Rylan Bannon. Every day I do it.
That's it. I never thought that that's something that like guys would need to practice. I always just thought it was like instinct, like get it out of there. But like, it sounds like you spent some actual time like working on the art of catch and release without throwing it.
Oh yeah, 100%, a lot.
That's awesome. So you're a proud Iowa Hawkeye. Are you keep up with the football team? Like, what's the mood of an Iowa guy right now?
I don't really keep up with it, to be honest. My junior college is right here where I went to school with, and I'm really, really close to their head coach. So I do all my training and stuff here. I don't really pay too much attention to Iowa. I haven't really gone back at all besides when I got my Big Ten ring. Keep in contact with some of the guys there, but other than that, I'm always at my JUCO.
Okay. So the Iowa loss to Purdue in football over the weekend, that didn't like break you up or anything?
No, nope.
Okay.
Did not break me up. I'm not heartbroken or anything by it.
Okay. All right.
I'm sure people will talk trash to me, but like, I'm just not.
Oh, they had a great run. They were number 2 in the country for a little bit. You always banners fly forever. So
Exactly.
All right. We talked a little bit about this before we started, but like, what is your World Series prediction right now? We got the NLCSs and the ALCSs cooking. Like, what's your prediction?
Oh my. Oh, I would love a Braves Red Sox to be sweet.
That would, yeah. I think those are 2 evenly matched teams.
I would be okay with that. I think that'd be a fun one to watch. I feel like they're both pretty good offensively. The Dodgers are just, I mean, I still don't see them losing. Like, they're down, what are they, down 2-0 now?
Yeah.
I don't see them losing. I don't know. They have too many weapons. But I would like, that'd be cool. I'd like Red Sox.
The only thing that scares me about that series is that it's 1,000% Jocktober. It's Jock Peterson's series.
Oh yeah.
So
I know. I know it. That's how it goes.
Whenever they need a clutch home run, it's just always Jock Peterson. It's always 450 out to right field.
It's crazy how some guys are just like that's just what they do.
Yeah.
Like certain guys that get the bat and it's like, this is his situation where he would hit a homer. And then there it is, homer.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the only thing that's keeping me from saying Dodgers. I love Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. But yeah, it's not looking great.
No.
All right. Last question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Could be baseball, could be life. What's something that stuck with you?
Whew, that's tough. That's a good question. Best piece of advice. Oh my, man. You're saying like wording, like a phrase,
what's something that, yeah.
I guess, I mean, it's pretty generic, but like never be complacent, like never settle. I guess that goes back to when I was in grade school and it was like I wanted to play varsity all 4 years of high school, and I got there and I played freshman through senior year of varsity, and it was like I want to play college baseball, and then I went to JUCO and it was I want to go Division I, and then so it's just like you reach that goal. Like I was just talking to somebody the other day and they're like, I said, hopefully next year's the year, and she was like, but if it's not, if you're done today, like you made it a lot farther than others. And I was like, yeah, but that would be me settling. Like I'm not, that's not me, even if I, say next year I play the whole year in the big leagues, like I reached my goal, but I still think there's going to be another goal. Okay, let's get to arbitration. Okay, let's play 5 years. Okay, let's play 10. It's ultimately is just not being complacent. And I think that goes a lot in life, not just with baseball, but with a lot of things, people get complacent and people go through the motions, and it's life. I mean, essentially that's what happens at times, but it's always trying to be a better version of yourself, trying to, better the people around you, always hyping up your friends to make them better. And that's how the people that I want to surround myself with.
I really like that. Yeah. I think that's sound advice that, like you said, not just in baseball, but life.
Yep.
This has been a ton of fun, man. Like I've really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. So yeah, best of luck this off season heading into next year. And hopefully we see you down the road here in Baltimore.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Justin.